tree. That's how I thought. It's good. You know what I'm saying? Yo. I'll be the last man standing in the middle of a major war. BC, caveman and dinosaur.
The wisdom in Islam itself can be applicable to everybody, regardless of their current identity. So that is one of the topics we are going to bring to you guys, is the truth based on the wisdom from not only Islam, but from all of mankind.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic, because when it comes to truth, I mean, I guess the main problem is where is the authority where the truth is coming from, you know? And we see that right now there's a real problem of authority, you know, in that the truth is controlled by experts, you know, and you don't really have the means by which you could surmise how these experts gain their great talents. So, you know, we see in our seerah, you know, we have the very courageous Umar, radiyallahu anhu, you know, and he came up to the library of Alexandria, you know, that was renowned for its knowledge, you know, up until the time of the Roman Empire. You know, even you look at Philo of Alexandria and the Neoplatonists and the early Christian movement, and you see that the Alexandria was well renowned as a place that you could gain lots of knowledge, you know, he's actually known for burning down the library of Alexandria.
Who are we talking about?
We're talking about Umar radiyallahu anhu.
Of course. So, we have to bring up Umar radiyallahu anhu when we also bring up our beloved prophet, because if there were to be a prophet after Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, as we say in Arabic, Umar would have been the next one. However, as we know that in Islam there will be no more prophets, and we are the last of the ummah or group that will have had a prophet until the end of time.
And that really brings to the next stage of what the topic here is that knowledge has actually been completed already. So it's only the hubris of man that seems to suggest that knowledge is a project that is still in the making here. You know what I mean? See, when Umar radiyallahu anhu walked up to the library of Alexandria, it had already been burned by the so-called Western people. You know, they burned their own library under Caesar. You know, so Caesar had already burned down most of it. So to say that Muslims were apprehensive about the knowledge of the world, and they didn't seek to gain that knowledge through their very own methodology, you know, would be extremely kind of inept view of the historical development of knowledge in the world. But one of the ways that Umar radiyallahu anhu looked at it is that he said that whatever is within this library, you know, that agrees with the Quran, you know, is superfluous to our own knowledge, and whatever whatever is not contained in the Quran is something that is insignificant when compared with the knowledge in the Quran. So it's something that is unnecessary for us to learn. So he said, it's either superfluous or unnecessary, the knowledge contained in this library, and therefore it's not a crime to burn it. So it's very interesting argument that he used, and the argument points to, actually he's exposing one of the greatest problems in epistemology. And epistemology means, what is the methodology you use to gain knowledge or truth? Because the scientific method presents one knowledge, one form of gaining knowledge, which is, much like, we talk about Karl Popper, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Karl Popper had this theory that, like, all truth is gained through falsifiability. So once you
cause and effect, or what is that?
Well, falsifiability means that you have to provide an example where the idea you're dealing with actually fails. and then if it doesn't meet this requirement, then you can't get closer to truth, because see, truth is like a wall, but every time you get closer to that wall, there's an infinite distance between yourself and that wall. So the closer you get to it, the farther away the truth gets. So we had this kind of theory that you can only get 99.9% of the truth. But like that's 100%. See, he's posing that as 100% true statement. So if you could only get 99.9% of the truth, is that 99.9% true?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like no, you're stating that as 100% fact. So like
what if it's 99.98? What if 99.1?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
how would you know for sure what exactly is the percentage?
Exactly, So.
It's not 100, so already that's a false statement.
Yeah.
Because if it was 100%, then it would be 100% every time valid. But that's a very interesting point, Mr. Kong, that you brought up, is epistemology. I haven't done too much research into that topic myself, but it is very interesting to know how many people, come to their beliefs and come to accept truth. Because I feel like there's many types of epistemology, or different. I mean, epistemology, as you just stated, is the method for deriving the truth, and so we know today people don't want to necessarily go into religion to really come up with their belief, but they want to go for their worldly interpretation through experiences, through books of all kinds. A lot of them are straight up garbage, and people are getting brainwashed into believing something as the truth when it's something far from the truth. And maybe, Mr. Khan, you can give an example of something that is going on in the world today.
Well, I think one of the primary aspects of this would be people's identifying their communication through machines as something that is very tactile and then you get to the point where people are kind of frozen in connecting with the screen, and it seems to be that, you know, it's very hard to tell if the screen is there's a very much a difference between a wall and a screen. You know, and it seems like it's not really understood how technology provides this mediation for us. And I think the number one thing that's going on in the world is that people think because of the machine that anonymity is freedom, and that voyeurism gives a sense of truth. So what I mean by that is that they think that in a very voyeuristic sense, you know, they think like seeing is believing, you know, and that's false. You know, because reality is more than the appearance of it, you know, and that goes back to epistemology, because really you see that one example comes from the Confessions of the Honorable Imam Ghazali, right, who said in his Confessions that if somebody were to hold a coin up to the sun, you know, a coin would be about the size of the sun if you hold it up exactly the right point, and look at the coin and look at the sun. It'll appear as if the coin is the right size of the sun, and you can actually use the coin to cover up the sun, you know. And by appearance, one could surmise that the coin and the sun are actually the same size, but of course we know that this is a lie. And then we see that reason is what tells us this, because when we measure distance, we use trigonometry. We see the shadow cast by the coin in relation to the sun, and the light in relation, what we can see with our eyes. Then we can put it all together because of reason, you know. So reason seems to convict or judge the senses, you know. As Pascal said one day, the French philosopher Pascal, he said, reason refutes dogmatists, but nature refutes skeptics. So it's a very kind of intriguing statement that he made. But kind of what he's saying is that reason will convict the senses, you know, and the proof for that is nature itself. Nature seems to be highly ordered, and that's one of the issues presented therein. But then going back to Imam Ghazali, he says, if you go in your dreams, then you'll see a world presented to you that makes perfect logical and reasonable sense sometimes. You know, even through the senses and the reason are all intact, yet you seem to be experiencing something that is nonetheless not real. So he came to the conclusion that the same way reason judges the senses, couldn't there be another judge above reason that convicts reason or judges reason the same way that reason judges sense experience?
Very interesting. Very interesting. I do feel that, you know, you just mentioned a lot of various, endless amount of things we can definitely, you know, start discussing. But I want to just stay focused on the topic we just brought up in general for the time being. And you're right with the whole tactile, technology being tactile and people really losing that sense of what is the purpose of technology. And I kind of want to focus on that first, is really discuss what is the purpose of technology. And because you mentioned we don't know what technology is. I mean, we know we use it to make our life convenient, but in the reality, it has been a sort of a double-edged sword, because we are losing, that sense of reality because it's so tactile. As you mentioned, that's probably one of the best words to describe technology, is we're so immersed in it that it has become a significant part of our life. And I don't think that's going to change unless people really wake up. And that's the point of the whole show, right? Is for people to come to some sort of understanding that we have to really be aware of what's going on before we make the necessary adjustments. And so, Mr. Khan, I'm gonna let you comment on what I just said, and hopefully we can discuss all the various things that you just discussed. Brought up maybe in later videos. However, just to focus on one part at a time, I think we really need to address the machine, as your Twitter is also named after this topic, right?
Yeah, I mean, it would happen to be one of the primary things that would come up, and it's actually extremely important to discuss what is the origin of technology itself. But that would again bring us back to the question of where does knowledge or science really, because see, I think science is really the thing that gives birth to technology, and then that is one of the ways that we mediate reality is through symbols. So really, if we want to get to the origin of what technology is, we can go for symbols, because I think symbols are a primary candidate, because symbols seem to be primary to technology itself. And if you could, and that is one of our key themes, is that if you want to beat the machine, you have to understand the symbols that the machine uses to translate information inside the world. So our world is mediated by machines. But those machines themselves, as we said, they're tactile, yet the experience of them is very fleeting, So tactile yet fleeting sensibility because of motion, because the machine is always in motion. The machine itself is like a process. That's why it can be thought of as purely symbolic. You know what I mean, Brother Daniel?
What? I'm a little lost. What you mean by the symbols? I'm a little lost.
Well, symbols. Well, see, I could break it down like this, because see, if you want to make a weapon, right? See, we have those kids in Afghanistan, that we've seen that live in the mountains, and they'll take a Russian weapon, and they'll look at it one time, and they'll go to their metallurgy shop, and they could perfectly reconstruct that weapon just by looking at it one time. By rebuilding it. Just if they have one such weapon, they can rebuild 100 different copies of it, because they've taken it apart and studied how to make it.
Wow.
So
that's very interesting.
So there's kids in the mountains that can take apart a weapon with their hands and then rebuild 100 more weapons like that. And this is just by it's pure mimicry, because technique is pure mimicry. Right? There's no actual. Once you have the manual, you can do it yourself, as they say, right? So it seems like if you want to make a weapon, right? Say you want to build a weapon, right?
Yes.
A custom-made weapon. Well, you would have to draw a picture of it. You would have to draw a blueprint,
Yes.
And that blueprint, the design itself, there's a certain sense in which you can think of the design itself is the weapon. You know what I'm saying? Because once you set forth the parameters for it, you know what I mean, you can build whatever you want. And that's kind of what we're dealing with here, is that the symbol. See, if you want to make a special type of a sword, and you craft the parameters for a type of sword, and then you give it to a metal worker, and you say, I want a sword exactly this length, made of this type of metal, and essentially what you would have to do is you would have to draw up a design, and that drawing is the symbol that makes the tool, So we see that the symbol is primary to the tool itself, because nothing here, see, in our world, nothing is made without craft. But see, we also know that that's in complete in a complete 180 distinction to how Allah creates. Because see, Allah doesn't draw a blueprint and then make things. That's one way that Allah doesn't make things. So
right.
Because of kun fayakun. God says be, and then it was. So God doesn't have to draw up a plan. But see, over here, on Earth, in the dunya, we see that everything is made of something that's already in existence. Because see, from one single idea, everything appeared in our particular realm here, in the art.
What is that idea?
That idea is kun fayakun, That's the single idea from which all existence actually originates, So that I mean, I thought you meant in terms of the man-made things. That's what I was thinking about when I said what is that one idea? Not God himself and how he created the world and everything into being. In terms of the man-made, we understand creation as there's nothing new under the sun. So everything came out of something already in existence. So like like I was talking to Dr. Skrbina on the 4th episode of The Machine Lies, and he's got this very interesting notion in his book about second order nature. That technology is second order nature because it's nature made nature.
Technology is second order nature.
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly?
I guess it would mean that technology. Well, he takes it to mean fully that technology is itself made by nature, but it could also be taken to mean that the less kind of metaphysical idea, would be that. Man, my screen is frozen over here. Yeah, but the less metaphysical concept would have to be that nature is actually that technology is just made from nature, from stuff that already exists in nature. So because see, we wouldn't actually think that. From an Islamic perspective, it would be hard to reconcile that nature is itself a creative force. as my dear Dr. Skrbina believes and argues for,
Yeah, I mean the whole concept behind nature creating nature, like you just said, I mean, everything is under the sun, and God gave the ultimate, ability and intelligence, everything for different technology advancements to ease our lives. And we can go back to the ancient pyramids, and see that those pyramids were created through the use of technology. From one theory on how those pyramids, huge stones that they had to move perfectly into position, and not only move them, like they had to, it was a pretty big structure, and so we know that that couldn't have been done by man himself, because of just the size of each of those stones. So one of the theories is there was some sort of technological advancement, and another is the use of jinn, who have the ability to do those lifting of stone from that standpoint of just the sheer amount of the weight.
Yeah, that's absolutely a known fact, and I think it's interesting. They have even I think there's also Sacsayhuaman, and Gobekli Tepe is another one, and they have in Sacsayhuaman, you could see huge rocks. They have you see a human being standing right next to it. It's like a little tiny little ant, and you look at those buildings. I mean, from South America to Turkey to Egypt, and even in other parts of the world, they have very old buildings that couldn't have possibly, like you said, been built by modern technology, because, as you stated, there's cranes that could lift rocks that are that big, but they have not made cranes that could set the rocks in formation once having lifted them. set them in position the way that they're stacked up in these buildings here. And actually we see that when you go to the ancient sources, you know, it seems like they actually are not so clear as to when these were built. You know, when you go to the most ancient sources at the time when historians say that Egyptians or South Americans built these structures, it seems like people didn't either such technology did not exist, or that they had some type of knowledge that we have lost today.
Man, I cannot imagine their power. They put a black family in the White House just so they could take away ours. You trying to plan a great escape, you a coward. They gon' march us in the gas chamber, make us think we taking a shower. Mamas and babies is crying. The children of Zion belong to Skynet. Nobody knows who's behind it. So if you don't care, fine then. I don't care either, but I ain't spineless like you. I'm a true believer in the metaphysical ether. You listening to the lyrical reaper, the spiritual teacher, empirical speaker. After this album, they gon' call me a leader, but I'm not. Illuminati just gon' murder me like Pac. Blood sacrifice or not, I don't even wanna be alive. If it's like that, then fuck Tiamat. You can laugh at my appearance, well fuck you for standing there staring. Fuck everything on this planet, including the evil spirits. Notwithstanding the aliens acting like they don't hear us. There's no need to fear us, just come down and help us. I love James Brown more than I love Elvis, but that don't mean I'm selfish. Soft but hard on the outside like shellfish. Crispy, crunchy, black, crawling out of hell's pit. You scream for hardcore, I felt it. But what you gon' do when they kill me on some Eminem and L shit? You won't do a motherfucking thing. Cause let me tell you why, you a coward and you don't know shit. Cause if my brothers stand next to me, the energy expands collectively. The world was never ready for me, and they ain't ready for their own freedom neither. They perish from the heat of the fire breathers, crawling out of their caves to eat them like thin crust pizza. Cthulhu creatures with rough features, jeepers creepers, good luck with Jesus. How many meters? Reload and squeeze it. I run up in the Vatican with demons just to get even. That's where the biggest demon is. It's no secret, but nobody else sees it, so they won't believe it. But that's when I calm back down. The key word is back down. I got possessed by my own raps. Wow, knock knock, who's home? The black Dan Brown. I didn't mean what I said, please don't kill me now. My ghostwriter's not around, plus it was just a freestyle. But at least I got better beats now. Meanwhile, motherfuckers still mad, I feel bad. I apologize, but you acting like a real fag. What the fuck I'm supposed to feel like? 12 years later, I still don't get acknowledged for the shit that I write. Well, I don't wanna talk to you now. It'd be a motherfucking miracle if you even see me walking around. They still ask me about second round, even now.
Cannabis, can you tell us what happened
Look
again?
at this fucking clown. Can't get over it. They ask me a loaded question and act like I'm the one that's promoted it. Hang up on them. You a cyborg unit with no soul to it. Stupid surrogate. 12 years later, I'm on some other shit. And so is the whole world. Look at the mother shits. And so is the whole world. Look at the mother shit.